This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to In or Out, a rapid-fire game where we discuss a handful of NBA topics and determine where we stand. In honor of the Cavs and Lakers' final matchup of the season, joining us today to talk all about those teams is Jacoby Hart, aka Colb. Thank you so much for joining the show, and tell the people where they can find you.
Hey man, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. You can find me at Twitter at ___Colb ____. And you can also find me on the podcast I do with Quincy Carrier, Q and Colb on YouTube. Go check that out. We always have a good time. We're talking more Cavs now because the Brown season's over, so we got to talk about somebody. And yeah, check me out there.
I will have the link to your Twitter in there in case anyone doesn't want to type all those underscores. And definitely recommend that podcast you have with Quincy. I just did an episode with Quincy yesterday, so if you want to check that out too, go ahead. But I figured who better to have on for this Cavs and Lakers segment than Colb as a Cavs and Lakers fan. Now, we are recording this ahead of the Cavs-Sun game tonight, so just keep that in mind for everyone watching. We don't know what type of insanity will happen in that game, but I figured let's start off with our first Cavs and Lakers connection. And really, just to be fair, before I even get into it, this is just a way for us to talk about a certain player who I know we both have an agenda to push. So let's get it started. Are you in or out on Anthony Davis still being a fair comparison point for Evan Mobley?
Hey, this is going to be rough because I know me and you we're the Mobley defenders on Twitter. I'm out, man. He's not AD, dog. He's not that. And it sucks because I think Evan's a very good player. He's a very good basketball player. I think he gets way too much criticism on Twitter for what he does. He's very impactful on both ends of the floor. He's not Anthony Davis though, man. Like you got to really go back and watch like young AD before all the injuries, all the nagging injuries, even like AD his very first year with the Lakers in 2020. Evan's not that level of athlete, man. Like he's not that level of athlete, and I think he's a really good athlete, especially for his size. I think he moves very well. But AD was just another level. When you talk about athleticism, being able to anchor an elite defense, and he's still giving you like 25 every game. Sometimes he'll give you 30, sometimes he'll give you 40 if he's really got it going. I'm not sure Evan's going to be that kind of a player. I think he's always going to be a very good basketball player, but like arguably top 10, top 5 guy in the league. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an insane bar to reach, and so it's an unfortunate way to frame the conversation because we are both very high on Mobley, and I kind of set us up for failure here. But I mean, the thing is with Anthony Davis, I feel like sometimes people just forget how good he is. I mean, so many prospects get compared to Anthony Davis, and it's almost a discredit to AD because he came out of college. He was the number 1 pick. He probably goes number 1 in most of the recent drafts. Going back down the list, like he goes number 1 in a lot of other drafts. You could kind of argue that Mobley might not go number 1 in a redraft of his own draft. Now, I don't know. I think I might take him number 1, but there's at least a debate there. Anthony Davis, I mean, he was so polished on both ends of the floor coming out of college. So let's just be fair to AD and stop comparing every big 7-footer that comes into the league with great defense and a little bit of offense to AD. But with that being said, Mobley is still very good. I mean, if he was on a different team in a different circumstance, he would be posting different stats that would lend people to recognize how good he is. Right now, there's so many people who kind of tell on themselves. You can tell they're not watching the game because they just look at his stats and they're like, how is Evan Mobley so good? Why are people so high on him? Well, if you watch the games, you would find out. You would be able to see. Right now, like this is where Evan Mobley is right now in his career. If he continues on this path, if he doesn't get any better, he's got multiple all-defensive teams in the future competing for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's a guy who's capable of giving you 20 and 10 on any given night. So that's his floor right now. Now, how high can his ceiling go? It's still undefined, but even if he doesn't get any better, which he has been getting better, but even if he didn't, he's already a great, great player to have on your team. So some of the Mobley discussions have gotten out of hand, I think.
Yeah, I also think people are seeing what Chet's doing in OKC, and people are seeing what Wemby's doing. I don't like comparing Evan to Wemby because Wemby's just like a completely
there's no
different
comparison for Wemby.
like it's just like a completely different. Like he's gonna be the best player in the league, probably, maybe even like next season. He's gonna be the best player in the league. So like I don't like comparing him to that, but people will see what some of the other younger players are doing and compare it to Evan, and I'm just like, hey man, like he's averaging like 16 to 10. He's only playing 30 minutes a game. He's also averaging a career high in assists. I think what is he like 3.2 or 3.3?
Yeah,
something like that. Something like that. Like per 36, I think he's 18 and 11 and a half. Something like that. I'm like, yo, man, that's all-star. Like that's an all-star caliber season. If he was playing more, I need to lay off Evan a little bit. Just like let him develop, understand that development's not linear, and also he's on a good team. And when you're a young player on a good team, you can't just get stats. You can't just do what you want. Like Jalen Green's had the opportunity to just, do whatever he wants.
Just hoist him up there.
Hoist him up like Kay. Like he's not in a situation like Scotty Barnes or Kay Cunningham or Jalen Green where the teams aren't good, so they can just kind of, do what they want to do and work on their games and just get better over time with a bunch of opportunity. He hasn't had that. Ever since he's been on the team, the Cavs have been good. So he's kind of had to like play his role and make sure he's doing what he needs to do to make sure they win the game. So I think people just need to give Evan a little bit of a break, just have a little bit more patience, and it's going to pay off eventually.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I've always said, even entering this season, I was like, any growth or leap that you will see from Evan Mobley, it probably won't show up in the stat sheet as much because he's just not that's not the room he's been given to grow. You're not going to see a huge boost in scoring when he's the third option right now. And I think you made a good point with like Chet and Wemby entering the league and plenty of other guys. It's like there was a time when players like Evan Mobley, they were unicorns. They were rare. Now you see them just driving down the street. They're so common now. They're like deers now. I mean, they're just everywhere. And so it's kind of minimized how good Mobley is. And his ceiling is still very high. But speaking of ceilings and which players may or may not have already hit their ceiling, for our next topic, I have to set the stage a little bit. Back in February, Jackson Flickinger dropped a take in the Fear the Sword group chat that was so scorching hot, it literally burned my eyebrows off. And of course, we all shot him down. We let him hear about it. Looking back, maybe we were a little too harsh. Full disclosure, I'm still not entirely on board with this take. I still disagree with it, but keeping in the spirit of the Cavs and Lakers, I'm going to share it with you today. Is Darius Garland destined to be another D'Angelo Russell, a.k.a. a player who peaks early with an all-star season and then has their development plateau and never makes another leap? Colb, where do you stand on this?
I'm out on this one too. Like I wouldn't get that down on Darius yet. To be fair, having a rough season. Rough for a lot of different reasons, a lot of injuries. I actually think he's been more hurt than people would actually know. Like I think he's dealt with a lot more this season than I think people are aware of, and I think that's a big part of it. He's lost like 13 pounds when he broke his jaw. Couldn't eat food. Still hasn't gained the weight back. And I think that's drastically impacting the way that he's playing basketball right now. But he's not destined to go on the D'Lo track. D'Lo, who's having a really good season for the Lakers, by the way. I just want to throw that out.
Yeah, to be fair, I think he has grown a little bit as a player for sure.
Yeah, he's having a really good season for the Lakers right now. But I think the thing with Darius is just that all the injuries, missing time, really hasn't been able to get back to who he is physically, has contributed to the down season that he's having. I don't really think it's a regression. I just think it's an unfortunate season. I think he's just having an unfortunate season. I think he'll be better next year. I do wonder, though, if Donovan Mitchell extends, if still being here is the best thing for his career going forward. Because listen, he was an all-star. He was an all-star just 2 years ago. And even last season, I actually thought he was better last season than he was in his all-star season.
Yeah.
And he didn't make it. So people were just like, oh, like he hasn't been an all-star. He hasn't done X, Y, Z. I think he's really, really, really good. But if D Mitch is here, I wonder, does he kind of want to get somewhere where he can show it. You know what I mean? And so we're not, so people aren't comparing him to D'Angelo Russell and things like that.
Yeah, Jackson, you're wild for that one. But I did get the point that he was trying to make, which is just maybe DG has hit his ceiling earlier than we expected. I don't agree with it. Again, I think a great point is just that I think the season he had last year was better than his All-Star season. I think he looked like a more complete player, and as kind of controversial as it probably is to say, I think he has flashed moments this season where he looks more like a complete player than he did in that 2021 year. He started off the year killing it in the paint. His 3-point shot wasn't falling, and he was making some careless decisions with the ball, but like that improvement that he made in the paint was a carryover from the year before. It would have been 2 years in a row of having a career best year at the paint and drawing free throws. And obviously the jaw injury affects that. As far as the D'Lo stuff, I don't think we need to compare them as players. I think most people would acknowledge DG is better. I don't think D'Lo ever controlled the game as much as DG did when he was at his best. And even like the growth that DG has shown this season, it's a career high for assisted field goal attempts. He's operating with less touches. Now, those numbers might have changed in this recent stretch now that Donovan Mitchell's out. But prior to that, it was career best. And another aspect that I think, listen, I don't want to be a shameless DG defender, but no one would ever consider DG a defensive stopper by any means. But I think last season, he reached a point where he was reliable. He wasn't necessarily changing the game that way, but I felt like, sure, he's a target, but he could hold his own for the most part. This year, he has not been that. This year, it is a step back in terms of his defense. And that, again, probably comes back to losing 13 pounds unexpectedly and just having really a nightmarish season. And again, just to finish out with giving D'Lo some credit, I do think he has grown a lot with the Lakers. He's having a great, great year. But DG at his best, he's a high-scoring, high-assist guard who, if he stays in Cleveland, will be on a top-seeded team. I think you could see another All-Star season in his future pretty easily if things start to fall his way again rather than going the exact opposite throughout the year.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. But I want to give D'Lo his flowers because after that Nugget series last season, I was so out on him. I was like, hey, man, we got to get this dude out of here. Like, he can't, like, we have to play them. He cannot play the series. Like, he's going to get torched and he wants to hit. So it's like, what are you even doing? But this season, he's been so much better, man. He's been arguably, I think you could say he's probably been the third best Laker all year.
I think I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think he's been honestly consistently the third best Laker for the majority of the season. Obviously, Austin's had some moments, and he's been really good sometimes. And Rui's been really playing well since he's been back in the starting lineup. The offense has been good since they've been back in the starting lineup. Can't defend anybody, but you know, D'Lo's been really good. He's been really good this season.
Yeah, it seems like whenever I do watch the Lakers, it feels like, and maybe I'm way off on this, but it feels like he's improved so much as a catch and shoot guy. Not that he's necessarily a motion shooter, but those no-dip threes that he makes, I'm like, I don't remember him ever doing anything like that before. So D'Lo, I've always liked D'Lo. I'm glad that he's seeing some success in LA, even if the team is, struggling a little bit here and there. Moving to our next topic. This one's a little too obvious, but you can't talk Cavs Lakers without mentioning LeBron James and a potential last dance that's on the horizon. LeBron has been pretty vague about his retirement and when it's going to happen. And I'm not sure he's given any real indication that he would leave Los Angeles. But the idea of LeBron coming home for one final time, competing alongside Donovan Mitchell, is too good to ignore, even if it's very unlikely. So let's frame the question this way. Kind of a two-part question. Are you in or out on LeBron returning to Cleveland one more time? And on top of that, do you think LeBron will do one big final farewell tour, or will he just retire on the spot one day?
I'll answer the second one first. He 100% is getting the retirement tour. He's 100% getting the Kobe Bryant retirement tour. So it's 100% happening. He has to do it. Like, I feel like the NBA would low-key like force him to do it. Like, if you're gonna retire, man, we need to celebrate arguably the greatest player in the history of our game and give you that give everybody that last time to come watch you play basketball. All the jersey swaps. There'll probably be a couple players crying. Like, he was my favorite player, and I can't I'm just so happy I got to play again. Like, stuff like that. They need that. The fans want that. He's 100% going to get his retirement tour. He's going to get that. Is it going to happen in Cleveland? I think it would be kind of crazy. It would feel weird if the retirement tour was in LA as the Laker.
Mm-hmm.
It would feel, because when obviously Kobe did it, Kobe played for the Lakers for 20 years. So yeah, that's one thing. But I feel like in the minds of every NBA fan, he's a Cavalier.
Yeah, he's not going to be remembered for the Laker days as much as the Cavs, his time in Cleveland.
Yeah, like he's not going to be remembered as a Los Angeles Laker. He's not even going to be remembered as a member of the Miami Heat. Like he's going to be remembered as a Cleveland Cavalier, 2016 Finals, coming back from 3. Like that is who we will always remember LeBron James to be. And if he's going to do the retirement tour, I kind of feel like he has to do it in Cleveland. But I feel like you gotta have one more year in the wine and gold. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully competing, at least have the opportunity to compete for one more title before you go out. And just let everybody remember you as we're going to remember you as a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue against it. I'd be here for it. I don't know exactly how it would happen with the contract situation and all that. It feels like maybe it would have to be some sort of trade, which puts the Cavs in an awkward position because, I mean, who do you give up to get one more year of LeBron? That's a whole discussion that, listen, at the end of the day, if you get one trophy out of it, it's worth it. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. I agree, though. I would expect a farewell tour. It's too on brand for LeBron. Like when Tim Duncan just dropped out, it's like, that made sense for Tim Duncan. LeBron, and I mean this with love, he loves the limelight. I don't see him just ducking out one day without having his whole farewell tour and the jersey swaps and everything. It would be too great. And really, the real last dance is going to be when he buys the franchise and he's the owner. But I don't know if that would ever happen either.
I don't know if Dan's gonna let that one.
He might be too petty for that.
I don't think he's gonna let that one happen, to be real.
Yeah. There would have to be some crazy negotiating there, but that's probably not in the book. But last topic here, and we're just gonna pin the Cavs and Lakers against each other for this. Now, these two teams will have very different starts to the postseason. The Lakers, for example, could miss it altogether, battling in the play-in. But assuming they manage to get into the picture, how far do you think the Lakers could go? And this might be a weird question, but who do you feel more confident getting out of the first round, the Cavs or the Lakers?
Okay, we'll definitely save that second one for last. As far as how far do I think the Lakers could go, I think they can get as far as they got last season. I mean, they got to the Western Conference Finals last season. They were in the play-in last season, and I'm going to be honest with you. The only team that I wouldn't pick them to beat in a series in the West is the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think
I would agree.
I don't think there's any other. I think the Lakers are the team that's currently in the play-in that none of the other teams that are currently in the playoffs want to play the series. They feel very much like the Miami Heat in the East. Like nobody wants to play the Heat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if you have to do it, like okay, yeah, like we'll give it our best shot. But if you had to choose, nobody's gonna pick them. Nobody's gonna pick LeBron James and a healthy Anthony Davis. Try to beat them 4 games out of 7. Nobody's picking that.
It's not
fun.
Know
what I mean, it's not fun. And the Grizzlies were the 2 seed last season, and they went in Memphis and they beat them. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I think they can get to the Western Conference Finals again. Who do I think can get out the first round?
It's the setup.
It's the setup. The Lakers. The Lakers 100%.
100%. Man.
100%.
See, I'm not 100% on it. I wouldn't be surprised, but I won't say I'm 100%. It comes down to the matchup, really. I mean, I haven't seen the exact standings right now. If the Lakers draw OKC in the first round, would I pick them to beat OKC? Probably not. But if Anthony Davis and LeBron James were able to beat a younger, inexperienced team, would I be shocked at all? Not really. You brought up the Memphis series, which is a great example. I mean, Nobody wants to face LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the playoffs. And if it's OKC or even Minnesota in a first round series, I'd be a little nervous. Denver, probably not too worried. I know we all talk about the most competitive sweep ever, and it really was. Every game was close, despite it being a sweep. I don't know if any team can beat Denver. I don't know if Boston can beat Denver. And for the Cavs in their first round series, I mean, listen, I'm terrified of the Heat. I don't want to see Miami in the first round. If there's one team that Jimmy Butler and Heat culture could really, shine again, it's the Cavs. I love them, but I don't want to see Jimmy Butler punking anybody on the Cavs. I don't want to see a Knicks rematch, please, for my own sanity. I'm not saying the Cavs can't beat any of these teams, but the worst thing that could happen for me personally is another New York beatdown. I don't need to see it happen again. I could see them beating the Pacers or the Magic, and then from there, who knows where you go. But I'll say, just to counter, I'll say I think the Cavs go farther. But it really comes down to the matchups, and it comes down to if Donovan Mitchell's healthy. Because oh boy, if he's limited the way he has been, or if he's unavailable to go, it's going to be a quick postseason for my Cavs.
Yeah, man, I'm not trying to slander the Cavs too much. You know what I mean? I like the Cavs. I like watching the Cavs. I'm not trying to slander the Cavs, but I do feel like the Cavs and the Lakers are on opposite ends of the spectrum. And it's kind of funny because the Cavs could be the 3 seed, but I feel like the Cavs will be the team that a lower seed, like, yeah, we want to play them.
Yeah,
like we are, like,
and it's the opposite for the Lakers.
Yeah, and the Lakers are the low seed that none of the teams up top are trying to play first round. Like we're not trying to deal with that. And I just think the being on the opposite ends of the spectrum is so funny. But if I'm the Cavs, whatever seed gets you to avoid the Heat and the Knicks is the seed you want. Like if you can get the Magic or the Pacers, you deal with that and you get out the first round, and then you just deal with, if you got to deal with the Celtics, you got to deal with the Celtics. But getting out the first round is what the Cavs need to do more than anything else.
Oh yeah, it's a mentality thing at that point, because if they can't get out of the first round, I mean, even if they get beat in the second round, I think changes could be on the way. But if they get beat in the first round again, man, there's going to be some big changes coming, and it's going to start with JB. And I would say the only other 2 people who are safe, Mitchell and Mobley. And that depends on if Mitchell wants to stay, which I think he does. But if they get bounced in the first round, it's going to get ugly. My Twitter page is going to become even more of it's going to be the trenches. So I'm not looking forward to that. I'm praying we can avoid that because people are going to be throwing Mobley in trade machines like nobody's business. And I don't need to deal with that right now in my life.
Hey man, if you guys want to send them to the Lakers, feel free. You
know what? I will actually get a takeoff here. I've been afraid to even say this or put it out there. I don't think it would happen for a long time, not until Mobley's second contract, but I think he loves California. By then, Anthony Davis and LeBron will probably be gone. People are worried about Donovan Mitchell's future. I'm worried Mobley might end up taking his talents to LA one day, but I didn't even want to put that out there, but it is something that's been in the back of my mind that I had to let that take fly.
Listen, I'm glad you said the take and I didn't say the take. Because if I said it, you know what I'm saying? There's bias if I say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you say it, it's like, maybe.
It might make too much sense for him. Maybe he's tired of being the second or third option. LA's in the rebuild. They'll throw him a huge bag. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, you heard it here first. My dog did not like that take. He's shutting it down.
Your dog speaking for all Cavs fans watching this.
Oh, man. That's all for this episode of In or Out. I want to say a big thank you again to Colb for coming on and helping me push the Mobley agenda even a little bit. It was a great time. And as always, go Cavs.